Hello, everybody. This is Randy Michaelis, and today I am going to talk about the 6 problems that I have with this community or whatever you want to call it. Now, the last video I made, I was overworked, I was tired, I worked 12 hours on Saturday, 13 hours on Sunday. Then, somebody was out sick on Tuesday, and I had to scurry to work. I was just rushing to work. I've been tired. I've been exhausted. And as some of you know, I work in the projects, and, there are people who trespass where I work. There are gunshots going off, even though there haven't been any gunshots lately. But because I live in I don't live in the projects. I actually live in a white neighborhood. But because I work at the projects, it just, the stress, the stress just gets to you. You have no idea what I go through in real life. You just have no idea what I go through in real life. But there are still problems that I believe exist within this community that you are more than welcome to disagree with, hopefully coherently instead of incoherently. For starters, one of the problems I have is labeling everybody who disagrees with you an SJW. It is up there with anybody who disagrees with me is a Nazi. You know how Antifa goes around punching Nazis? And it's like, but I'm not a Nazi. It's like, it does seem like there's a problem with anybody who disagrees slightly is an SJW. And I do think it just causes the word phrase to lose all of its meaning. Kind of like how Nazi lose all of its meaning. It would be different if you use SJW to be a specific types of person who wants to censor free speech, silences others, does this, does that. But when you use that for anybody who disagrees with you, it just becomes a meaningless phrase. It just becomes an insult that, has no real weight to it. Another problem that I have with this community would be is that it's becoming a bit repetitive, kind of like with the wage gap. I've heard about the wage gap so many times, I feel like blowing my brains out. And I would prefer quality over quantity. I do think people think, well, look at all of these videos debunking the wage gap. This is good. No, because I hate to say this, but many of them aren't even all that good. When it comes to Sargon of Akkad, that was good. That was amazing. That was quality. He put a lot of research into it. Sargon puts research into it, so it was amazing. But when other people do it, I mean, it's not even all that good. And it's kind of like a MGTOW talking about it, or, a person in the Ku Klux Klan talking about it, or a flat earther talking about it. I would prefer, quality over quantity. So my second problem is that it's repetitive and unoriginal. The third problem that I have, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a sore spot for some of you, but I feel like there are people who pay lip service to men's issues, but they don't do any donations to help out men. And I don't mean a specific man, I mean men as a collective. Like the very first time I see Let's Help Men as a collective comes from Micaiah B. And Micaiah B is a feminist. So it's kind of like I would be a lot happier if, people did some activism going, hey, men spend a longer time in prison than women. Men could never see their children again. Let us, let's donate to this organization that would help men. Let's do some activism work. Let's, make flyers and go to the streets and talk about men's issues. Let's really help men so that fathers could see their child. Let's bring attention to how male circumcision is wrong and how we shouldn't have male genital mutilations. Let's go out and do something to help men. It just seems like men's issues are brought up to pawn feminists, but we never ever do any activism work to help men. I mean, sure, I could do that, and I would have no problem doing that, but it just makes it come across as lip service, where you say it, but you don't really mean it. Like you say it, but you say it to win an argument. Like you say it, but you say it, to get extra views on your channel. You say it, but there is no weight behind your words. You're not putting your money where your mouth is. It's kind of like if I was a man and I could never see my child again, I would be much more happier with money. I would be much more happier with donations to me than merely talking about what I go through. Another problem I see, which is number 4, is you know, lack of nuance. This is much more a Twitter thing. It seems like the moment you say anything an anti-SJW doesn't like, they just descend upon you on Twitter, forgetting that there is only 140 characters on Twitter. And sometimes there is like a thread of tweets, because I've been through this even last year. Like when I was doing a parody of Koso, I was ridiculing him, and then I got a bunch of tweets of triggered anti-SJWs. Or there's been another case on Twitter where I was quoting something from like the Democratic Party, and I was quoting them, and they, instead of going through the rest of my tweets, they just saw that and they just had a knee-jerk reaction. And or it's kind of a lot like recently, it's kind of like I said, to play devil's advocates. This is where the other side is probably coming from, and I still got just this knee jerk, incoherent, emotional reaction instead of trying to see where I'm coming from, to see that hey, we're actually on the same side, and you're probably taking me out of context. And being triggered and having this knee jerk emotional reaction doesn't help. When I agree with you, it really does come across that you're looking to be offended and that you're trying to be offended, which is usually the criticism that is directed towards feminists. When it comes to feminists, it's like, well, you seem to be looking to be offended. It seems like you're trying to be offended. Well, when it comes to the anti-SJW community, it also seems to be looking and hunting to be offended instead of understanding that when it comes to 140 characters, you're not going to have the nuance that you like. And it's hard to have a good arguments or a good debates on Twitter. And you're not going to have that unless you fully understand where a person is coming from before you go against it. And it's the same with me trying to play devil's advocate. I do try to understand where these SJWs are coming from so that I could argue against it. Because I will put it this way, and I said this on Twitter too. The people who make the best atheist arguments are former Christians. They would be the fundamentalist Christians who read the Bible through and through. And when they leave and become an atheist, they're the ones who make the best atheist arguments because they understand where the other side is coming from. If you don't understand what they're saying, then you can't really refute it and debunk it and change some minds. That is, if you are interested in changing minds and trying to get people to think differently, or if you're interested in preaching to the choir. The other problem that I have is that it is becoming unscientific. It's kind of like this. Blair White says if being gay isn't a choice, neither is race specific attraction. People can't help their attractions, and it's not racist. There's a problem with that. Gay people gay people have a different brain. There is a difference between a gay person's brain and a straight person's brain. And I would be more than happy to give you resources for it. But this there's a difference. There are things in a gay person's genes that makes them gay. You know, there is a gene. I mean, it's not guaranteed that you will be gay. It's like they have a different brain. There's something in their genes. Being gay is a biological. When it comes to race specific attractions, that is closer to being attracted to green eyes or blue eyes or blonde hair. When you're gay, your brain is different. And again, I will give you the articles if you want them. I would give you articles about the gay gene if you want them. But you cannot compare being, gay to race specific attractions because there is nothing in your genes for it. There's nothing in your genes to go for blonde hair. There's nothing in your genes to go for blue eyes. And that is what is more similar to. And I do question, why does Blair White compares something that is completely biological to something that doesn't have any biological basis? It's because Blair White only dates white people and refuses to date black people? Because I do question the word preference. Well, comes to think of it, she did since say the word preference because I'm looking at her tweets right now. She really is comparing something that is completely biological to something that has zero biological basis, which to me gives credence, if I'm not saying that word out of context, to Rachel Dolezal, the transracial person, when really, when it comes to trans people like Blair White would have a female brain in a male body, which she took a sex change operation to, for her body to match her brain. When it comes to Rachel Dolezal, there is no real difference between blacks and whites. And I could introduce you guys to Carlos. Carlos is a YouTuber who is an archaeologist. And you guys should listen to Carlos talking about race from an archaeologist standpoint. You can't be transracial because there is no real difference between blacks and whites except, kinky, coily hair, and well, for me, I straighten my hair, and we're a few shades darker. There is nothing in your genes for it. And another thing that I see is a fallacy. Like, why is it racist for white people to only date within their race, but hundreds of black only dating sites apps exist? When really, I mean, that is like a two wrongs makes a right fallacy. Just because Antifa goes around punching Nazis doesn't mean it's a-okay to go around punching anybody you view as an SJW. It's like, well, Antifa, they go around punching Nazis, so therefore it is a-okay for me to go around punching anybody I see as an SJW. This is a two wrongs makes a rights fallacy. It doesn't help you to say, well, they're doing it. It just means that you're equally as bad. It's kind of like if Black Lives Matter is full of thieves and crooks and rioters, and you go around stealing and being a crook and being a rioter, and be like, well, Black Lives Matter doing it, does it? That would just make you equally as bad. And the reason why I was attracted to the anti-SJW community is because I viewed you as better than that. I don't want you to be equal to them. I was hoping that you would be superior to, not, the same thing as. When really, when it comes to these websites like Black People Meet, I actually know the type of people who use Black People Meet, and they are very critical of white people. Like, I have people in my family that use Black People Meet, and they're like, white people this, white people that, everything white people do is racist. Well, this is racist, that is racist, that is racist. Well, if Obama didn't become president, let's say if he didn't, it'd be like, well, it's because he's black. Or, well, people criticize Obama because he's black, it's really those type of people use Black People Meets. They are critical of white people. Like, it's kind of like the people who use Black People Meet. I actually met some of them, and they do bitch, whine, and complain about white people. So it's kind of a lot like, I do think that people are confusing what a preference is. A preference is much more like, I prefer to date a person with blonde hair and blue eyes, but I will not rule out a person with dark skin and coily hair. You know, um, when you say I prefer blonde hair, okay, men who prefer women with blonde hair would still date a redhead, will still date a brunette, even though, they prefer blonde hair. They could still be like, hey, you're a nice person, you're pretty cool, I'll still go for you anyway. When it comes to guys who go for, green eyes or blue eyes, they're not go, oh my God, this girl, this girl has green eyes. Deal breaker. Can't date a girl with green eyes. They may prefer, blue eyes, but having green eyes and brown eyes isn't a real deal breaker. So I don't think people quite understand what preference is. Preference isn't the same thing as exclusively wants this, and if you're not this, it's a deal breaker. A better argument would have been, well, I prefer somebody who's culturally similar to me. At least that would at least make more sense because, I know Japanese people who dated Americans, and the cultural conflict does get in the way when you have American culture conflicting with Japanese culture, and it causes a lot of stress and even divorce. Now, to me, that would make a lot more sense if you say, well, I would rather date somebody who's culturally similar to me. It's kind of like this. I wouldn't want to date a guy who is a Muslim, but it's not because of their skin tone or their hair. It is because I know about the Muslim faith and or Islam, and according to Islam, I'm supposed to die, and I don't feel like dying, so yeah, number five is that I feel like it's going to in unscientific directions, and it's using more fallacies, whereas before it was exclusively about the facts. Like when I first found this community, it's like let's use facts and as many facts as possible. Now it's comparing something completely biological to something that doesn't have any biological basis. Number six, you can feel free to disagree with this if you want. I'm pretty sure some of you will disagree with me on this, but it seems kind of like there is an increasing sympathy for the alt-right. It just seems kind of like you're moving in that direction, where I am pretty much the same. At most, yes, I moved to the right as well. I have developed right-leaning viewpoints, like I used to be pro-choice, but now I am pro-life. And so I have changed too. But it's kind of a lot like earlier in this community. I noticed that many of you hated the alt-rights. You couldn't stand them. You really hated them. And now you're becoming increasingly more and more lenient to them, like really, really lenient, and I saw Wizard of Cause and Schmeckel talking about this. Let me just pull the tweets up right quick. Here we go. This is Mups. The handle is Mups00. Roaming Millennial invited Richard Spencer, and he used her platform for PR, and she kept on throwing softballs at him, not exactly challenging someone's ideas. Schmeckel says, yeah, Roaming did go soft on him, so gets him on with somebody who wants. And this is like where Tim Blake, Wizard of Cause timeline, where Tim Blake says, oh, hey guys, the dude who wants a white ethno steak has some other idea. Maybe we should listen to it and consider them. And the Wizard of Cause says, have you heard him speak in interviews? He is hysterically bad. Letting him speak is the best way to expose what a shit set of ideas he has. Wizard of Cause also says, what we need are moderated, formatted debates. Let him speak his piece and then be obliterated by his intellectual superiors, i.e., anyone. And I agree with Tim Blake. I agree with Wizard of Cause. I agree with Mups. I agree with Schmeckel. You know, it really does seem like roaming millennial, and not just her, but many people are going soft on these people and showing more leniency to them when before I remember when Vernaculus got into it with the alt-rights on Twitter. I remember when Sargon of Akkad started tweeting interracial porn at them and making videos to get them, like, yeah, like really get it to them because it's still identity politics. There is not much of a difference between Richard Spencer and Gossi Koso. So it's kind of weird, like Richard Spencer, yay, Gazi Koso, nay, when identity politics is still identity politics. And identity politics is not good. Whether it's Gazi Koso, black nationalism, or black socialist party, Richard Spencer and the alt-rights, MGTOW, feminism, I don't care about any identity politics, but it's kind of like, you don't do this with MGTOW so much. Maybe Roaming does. I haven't seen all of her videos. Maybe she does, like, oh yeah, MGTOW. Yeah, let's listen to MGTOW. Let's, listen to these black nationalists. But it just seems like, I don't know. It just seems like there's more leniency to the alt-rights in particular, and using more of their arguments and accepting more of their arguments. And I don't know if it's because people are moving towards that direction or if it's done because of shock value. Where, I do know that Till Deer, had this old video called Punnage versus Intellectual Vigor. And I don't know if it's shock value versus intellectual vigor. And I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, probably am wrong. I am wrong about so many things, and if I'm wrong, I am sorry for it. But it just seems like people are being more lenient to this for shock value reasons, so that there are more views and likes to their channel. When really, I would prefer intellectual vigor. That is why I like Sargon of Akkad. That is why I'm getting into Six Hexenhammer. I am getting to Six Hexenhammer 666 because I like how much hard work he's putting into his channel. And when they put hard work into their channel, I want to do the same thing. Like, I bought a ship ton of books. Like, see all the books I bought? See all the books in my Kindle? I have Paper Genders by Walt Hare. I have Black Rednecks and White Liberals by Thomas Sorwell. I have Gender Lies and Suicide by Walt Hare. I have Bullies by Ben Shapiro. I mean, I don't know if you how we could see it, but yeah, I mean, I have all of this in my Kindle. I'm like ready to just like, yeah, and that is what I was originally going to do a video on. I was going to just go read Paper Genders and talk about, how it brought up circumcision and how it brought up some interesting things, but this is me reading books, hitting the libraries, well, buying books and going, hey, you know what? I am going to buy books and give you something completely original. I am going to give you some original shits, something that you probably never heard before. I am not going to give you the same old. I am willing to give you something completely original. And I've been inspired to. Sargon of Akkad inspired me. Sticks, Hets, and Hammer 666 inspired me. Modwayne inspires me. When I'm in Modwayne's hangouts, and there are people there who have read hundreds of books, I think I would like to keep up with that. I would like to push myself to read more, to read all of these subjects, and to give you guys original content and give you something you never heard before, that you probably never heard of and never thought about. And yet, it just seems like this direction towards the alt-right that it's probably for shock value. Like, look, Richard Spencer, and that's why we're just gonna throw softball questions at him instead of really just going at it for him. But I don't know. She probably did the same thing for MGTOW. She probably does. Who knows? And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I am wrong about a lot of things, okay? I get many things wrong. And if I am wrong, hey, I am sorry. I give an apology. My bad. But I just wish we just went for intellectual vigor, like Tildeer says. Or it could be because people are agreeing more with it, because it seems like people go from, thinking that all identity politics are bad to showing more leniency towards it. And I don't know if Francesca Ramsey and Dear White People has an effect on that, where the people are getting tired of dear white people, and white people are the enemy, white people are scum, because every action has an equal but opposite reaction. And with all of this, white people this, white people that, white people this, white people that, maybe something like white nationalism, which is about having like a white ethnostic, maybe that is more comforting than white people are evil and white people are terrible. And really, I hate that stuff too. I am black and I don't like Francesca Ramsey. I did a video with Danny Deschamps about this. I don't like this stuff either, and I'm black, and I do, try to speak out about this. But I also want for original content. Hence, is why I've bought more books, to put original content out there and give you something completely new. Well, what do you think of this video? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you agree with some of it? And if you do disagree, please let me know why in the comment section below. If you want to debate me on Twitter about this, I am Randy Kylis. If you want to debate me with this on Ask FM, which is probably better, it is probably better to debate me with this on Ask FM, because then, it would be harder to take anything I say out of context, even if it's accidentally. Or if you want, we could do a live stream about this. If you disagree with me, don't get triggered. Just do a live stream with me. Come the fuck down and do a live stream with me. I've been really busy, but I should be able to do a live stream with you Monday through Thursday in the evening time. So just reach out to me instead of getting triggered. But anyway, if you agree with it, please give it a like, share my content, and if you disagree, debate me. This has been Remy Kylis. Have a good